Morning, Harvey Ferdman, who is the policy analyst for Representative Bill Otto.
Good morning. Thank you.
What happened on this day 37 years ago?
On this day 37 years ago, my wife and I got married.
Why would you pick the day your taxes are due to get married?
It was the right day of the week in that year.
I guess. And it's 37 years later.
Yep.
And have you taken her to the landfill for a vacation spot anytime soon?
Going to the dump for dinner. Huh?
All right. Well, congrats for that. 37 years going strong. You've been on the show numerous times. You're our guy for the Westlake landfill as well as the Bridgeton landfill and all the other stuff that's going on. It's been a couple weeks since you've been here. Lots going on in terms of new things. First, let's start with the EPA office, which, from what we understand, from what you've told us, is re-examining their 2008 decision.
Yes.
So they're re-examining that, and that decision in 2008 was leave it alone, it's fine.
Leave it alone. Put a dirt cap with some rocks on top of that, on top of it, and just walk away.
Okay, right. And we'll get to the difference between a cap and entombing in a moment. But so the EPA in 2008 said just put some dirt over the top of it, it's fine. Now they're rethinking that, and so we're all waiting for them to come back with some recommendation. While we're waiting for that, the EPA office is now getting involved in a different way. What's going on there?
They have engaged their Office of Research and Development. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they've engaged their Office of Research and Development, which is largely due to the efforts of the citizens in this area. So the EPA is now reaching out to their own internal scientists outside of their Kansas City office to do reviews of what's happening at the landfill. Specifically, there's a report that was prepared by the owners of the landfill and the responsible parties for having the waste there, which are different people than the owners, that basically said if the fire reaches the nuclear waste, nothing bad would happen. So the EPA Office of Research and Development reviewed that document and picked it apart point by point by point, saying, no, if it reaches it, there's all kinds of bad things that can happen, including airborne radionuclides getting into the area. And, of course, depending upon the winds that day, it could spread pretty widely.
So who wrote this report?
The EPA's Office of Research and Development.
No. Who wrote the report originally that said nothing was going to happen if the fire got to the nuclear waste?
The original report is written by contractors to the responsible parties at Westlake Landfill. The responsible parties under Superfund are the people who dumped it there, the people who own the property, and technically anyone who ever touched it or owned the property ever. So the three main responsible parties are Department of Energy, Republic Services, because they own it, and a company called Carter Corporation that actually dumped it there in the first place.
Carter Company. That's a new name. I thought it was from Mallinckrodt. What happened to them?
Well, Mallinckrodt actually created the material as part of the World War II effort to build the nuclear bomb.
Right.
It was waste from their processing, but they handed it over to the federal government, who then sold it to Carter Corporation, just like you'd sell a bunch of lumber. Carter Corporation was licensed to have it, so it was monitored by the federal government. But under that monitoring, they still illegally dumped it over at Westlake Landfill.
Is Carter still around? What form are they today?
Yeah, they're a division of Atomic. I forgot the total name, but they're ultimately owned by Con Edison.
Gotcha. Okay. So Carter, Department of Energy, and Republic all lay claim to this. They're the ones responsible for this.
Yes.
They got together and wrote a letter saying, if the fire gets to the nuclear waste, don't worry about it. The EPA said, hey, wait a minute. That's ridiculous. If the fire does get to the nuclear waste, all sorts of bad things are going to happen.
Yes. And on top of that, they went out of their way to comment. The EPA went out of their way to comment. And had the 2008 cap been put in place, it still would not protect the citizens from the fire reaching the waste.
Okay.
And that's very, very significant, because that says that 2008 cap, as the citizens here thought back in 2006 and 2008 when they fought that, they were right.
I want to get to the cap in just a moment. the trial, I've gotten a lot of criticism from my voicemail and emails from people complaining about this. They don't quite understand where it came. We know where it came from, but how it got to here. Is this the third place it's been dumped?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, I guess you could say it's the third place.
So it was dumped originally, then it was moved from there to a second spot. It was moved from that second spot to currently where it is now.
Yes.
That's safe to say.
Yes, all the other movements were legal. They weren't necessarily handled properly, and it did get out into the environment in the movement and storage. But and the federal government's acknowledged that, and they're spending $1.7 billion already in the St. Louis area cleaning that mess up. This was excluded from that cleanup because of the way that it ended up at Westlake, because it was illegally dumped there.
So they're currently cleaning up properly the place where it used to be, but they're questioning whether or not they want to clean up the space that it is currently.
Yeah, because like I said, it was sold as if it was like a load of lumber.
Right, and it wasn't entombed. It wasn't done to 2013 standards.
Right.
So I mean, when and you've told us this before, when it was dumped where it is currently, it was literally dump trucks, right? That just came in, and there was no lead, there was no lining, there was no nothing. They just sort of dumped it.
That's correct, and in fact, the truck drivers and the owners of the landfill were told it was clean fill dirt. It looked like dirt.
Right. Okay. Now let's talk about this cap for a second, because you've scolded me on this a couple of times in a nice way, but your job is to educate people, because people say, "Oh, just cap it." Well, that means something different to the scientists than to lay people like me. So, explain the difference.
Okay, so a cap is that's proposed is a layer of dirt, followed by a layer of crushed up rock, followed by larger boulders. That does not prevent it from getting into the groundwater. It does not prevent it from having cracks and fissures form and releasing radon gas and other radionuclides through the layers of sand and rock. There's a new group in town funded by Republic, and they openly state that they fund it, called the Coalition to Keep Us Safe, and they issued a press release where they're referring to the cap as encasement, and encasement is not what the cap does. So they're spreading some misinformation. Encasement would be, as you can imagine, putting it in a case. A case means it's protected on all sides, all 6 sides of a case, or however many sides of a case there are, which is totally different than just putting a layer of a cap over the top. Think of a cap as a blanket and a case as a suitcase. Now, there is a proposal that has been studied and priced out to do on-site entombment or encasement. And that would be building a specific engineered structure, it's called a storage cell, that would be able to hold this nuclear waste safely on-site, because there are some people that are concerned about the transportation issues that may arise in moving that amount out of the St. Louis area.
Right. This same material is entombed in Weldon Springs.
Absolutely. 1.4 million cubic yards of it are entombed in Weldon Springs.
Now, when I say the same material, I mean literally the same material. However it's split up is encased and entombed in Weldon Springs. When you go down Highway 94, that material that is entombed came from the original Mallinckrodt, which then helped build the bomb.
Yes,
Okay.
it all came from the same.
All came from the same place. So we entombed it in Weldon Springs, but we want to cap it, supposedly, in Bridgeton. Okay. Now, the company who wants to cap it is funding an organization, well, Republic, who we now know is responsible for it, one of the three, is funding a community group called Keep Our Community Safe, which is wanting to cap it, which would not keep the community safe.
That's correct.
Okay. This same group, Keep Our Community Safe, is also, shall we say, creating a bit of a controversy in rural Missouri and in rural areas around phoning people, telling people, hey, this unsafe stuff in the city of St. Louis is going to be driven through your hometown, and it's going to be really unsafe. Would you rather have it unsafe in St. Louis, or would you rather have it unsafe in your own backyard? Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
And so there's quite a number of people who are saying, hey, wait a minute, we don't leave it where it is, because this group called Keep Our Community Safe is telling people, keep it unsafe in St. Louis, don't keep it unsafe here.
Right.
And that's being supported and funded by Republic that's on the hook to fix it.
Right. And
if the EPA chooses to change their opinion from 2008.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else I need to say?
Well, I was going to say what I think the folks in Keep Us Safe don't understand is what they're really doing is taking a swing at the nuclear power industry, because the nuclear power industry is moving this kind of, or actually much higher radioactive material through this area all the time.
Yeah.
So if they're against moving the stuff at Westlake, then they have to be against nuclear power.
It's a point that is not very well known. Is that every single day on rails? Is it not?
Yeah.
Nuclear waste comes in and out of St. Louis all day long.
Yeah. There's already, well, because of the other efforts of cleanup that's been going on for a number of years, that there's nuclear waste already being moved out of St. Louis.
So if somebody in, say, Springfield, Missouri is upset and doesn't want this moved because they don't want it moved through Missouri, they really need to be upset because there's already nuclear waste being moved through Missouri.
Yes.
Okay. I want to come back. There's two more things. I want to get to the Schaefer Amendment, and I also want to get to a group called the Coalition to Keep Us Safer, which is in direct competition, or they disagree completely with Keep Our Community Safe, so they started a new coalition called Keep Our Community Safer. We'll check in with all of that. Harvey Ferdman, happy anniversary to him and his wife. 37 years married. He, of course, is the policy analyst for Bill Otto, and he's been keeping us abreast of this Bridgeton landfill for months now, and we're part of the update here. Harvey Ferdman is with us. He's a policy analyst for Bill Otto, representative covering the Bridgeton landfill situation, the nuclear waste dump right next to a burning landfill. Harvey, on the TV side, we're showing a picture of a crane and people working at the Bridgeton landfill. What is this picture you've given us?
Well, actually, we're trying to figure that out ourselves. We can't tell if that's steam that's coming out of the ground because of the underground underground smoldering event.
Right.
Or if it's actually a little bit more ominous event taking place at the surface. It's really hard to tell from that picture, but that's a fresh picture from last week.
Right.
Of activities out there, and it just shows as soon as you start digging and doing anything into that ground, it starts releasing some amazing steam. All that steam's going to smell really, really bad. So when they go to build the barrier that's been ordered by the Attorney General, it's not going to be a fun place to be around.
So they're digging with a giant crane, but we don't know what they're digging or why they're digging.
Yeah, they're probably repairing one of the wells. They
Right.
have gas extraction wells over there.
Okay, now we've also blown up close to look at the people who are working on it. They're not wearing hazmat suits. Should they be wearing hazmat suits?
Well, I wouldn't be out there without a hazmat suit, but
Right.
It sure seems like they ought to.
All right. Who is Just Moms STL? Who are they?
Okay, yeah, that's the you referred to them earlier as the committee, the Coalition to Keep Us Safer. That's jokingly what they're calling themselves, but the real name is Just Moms St. Louis, or STL. They are the group that's been organizing the Facebook page and the community meetings for the last year. There's another meeting coming up this Thursday, in fact, at the International Operators Union on Hollenberg. It's open to the public, starts at 6:30. These folks, the Just Moms, have been keeping everyone informed. They've been meeting with all of our congressional representatives. They've been working with the press. They're awesome in what they've been doing. These are all volunteer moms who are concerned about the health of their kids, and they're going after making sure their kids are safe. And Don't mess with an angry mom.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where we find ourselves right now. The EPA has chastised a report prepared by Republic as well as other responsible parties. They say that the report that nothing would happen if the fire reaches the nuclear waste is absurd and ridiculous. What's this lawsuit that was filed?
The lawsuit is, as Representative Otto's office, we try to stay out of the fray on lawsuits, but I can talk about it. To some degree, the lawsuit alleges that there has been radioactive material that has left the site that is not contained on site, as EPA Director Carl Brooks has been saying.
Right.
Which means that they're putting together a class action suit.
Who filed the lawsuit?
Law firm called Finney.
Finney.
Yeah.
Okay, but a couple of citizens in the area got together and hired them? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, we're going to spend a couple minutes. What is the Schaefer Amendment?
The Schaefer Amendment is an amendment to a bill or a law in Missouri that defines what is a nuisance in terms of odors and things like that. Representative Schaefer is a partner at the law firm that represents Republic.
Lathrop and Gage.
In
Kansas City.
Yep, out of Kansas City, and they do have a St. Louis office. And they represent Republic in this thing with the EPA. And he filed an amendment onto this nuisance law, basically saying, and I have the amendment here, actions are prohibited from being brought against a property owner who is in good faith in compliance with an order issued by the Department of Natural Resources, the Environmental Protection Agency, or the Attorney General's office. That's very specifically describing what's going on here at the landfill. It appears to be an attempt to protect Republic from lawsuits from the general public.
Okay, so we should say that Representative Schaefer denies that this has anything to do with anything. Is that correct?
I haven't spoken to him personally.
Okay, I think he has been quoted in the newspaper saying that this has nothing to do with anything. But we should say that this Representative Schaefer is a partner in Lathrop and Gage.
Yes.
He's a state representative.
Yes.
And he has put forth this amendment to this bill that would protect his law firm's client from lawsuits.
Yes.
Okay. What are the chances of this bill passing?
My guess is there's a good chance the bill will pass, but I think the amendment will be stripped off.
Okay, interesting. Even if there was no conflict of interest, even if one has nothing to do with the other, it looks dirty.
Yes.
So that he's a lawyer in a law firm. One of his clients in his law firm is being sued, and he's writing a law that looks dangerously close to protecting one of the clients at a law firm in which he's a partner.
You could say that.
Okay. I just did. Okay. So where do we go now? What's next? What are people doing? What should people know?
There's another report that came out just yesterday. Once again, thank goodness the EPA has engaged their Office of Research and Development, and they have now also rejected the plan that Republic and others have submitted for the barrier design. So we now have people outside of the Kansas City EPA office who are looking at this, and every time they look at something, they are disagreeing with the Kansas City EPA office, which is what we've been saying all along. Is
so the big EPA is admonishing their Kansas City office, saying that's not right, that's wrong.
Basically, yeah, the EPA Office of Research and Development.
And you say barrier. That's the barrier that they want to build between the nuclear waste and the fire and the burning landfill.
Yes.
Right. Which is where they found.
Which will still get built. It's just that the initial design they were critical of the design.
Right. And which is while they were digging that trench, they found nuclear waste in that trench.
Yes. While they were looking for the path for the trench. Yeah.
Do we have any idea how long the EPA is going to take to rule? And there was talk about the Army Corps of Engineering getting involved with that. Where are we with all of that?
EPA about 20 days ago said within 90 days they'll have a contract in place. We're waiting to see the level of transparency that will be there. We want to be assured that if the Corps of Engineers disagrees with the EPA, or if the EPA disagrees with the Corps of Engineers, and the EPA chooses a path that the Corps disagrees with, that we are aware and we know that they are doing that the Corps has disagreed.
Harvey,
right now we're looking for those assurances, and they're slow in coming.
Harvey Ferdman, the most fascinating thing I've learned in this conversation is that where this nuclear waste used to be, they're spending billions to clean up properly. What was affiliated with this nuclear waste has already been entombed in Weldon Springs. We already have all sorts of more dangerous nuclear waste traveling through the state of Missouri, and they want to put dirt and rocks over what is out in Bridgeton.
Yeah, basically put a blanket over it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Harvey Ferdman, policy analyst for Bill Otto. Thank you, Harvey. Happy anniversary, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
You got it. It's 9:37 here, Big 550 KT.